This is KGW News at 6:30.
Good evening. Welcome to Friday. Let's get you caught up at 6:30, starting with the political storm that is expected to surround this federal courthouse in Miami come Tuesday. That is when Donald Trump says he will surrender after being indicted on 37 felony counts. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Molko. Trump is the first former U.S. president to face a federal felony indictment. He is fiercely denying wrongdoing again, insisting he's being unfairly targeted.
I'm an innocent man. I did nothing wrong, and we will fight this out just like we've been fighting for 7 years.
That is the former president declaring his innocence last night on Truth Social, his platform. Today, the indictment against him was unsealed, with the charges all tied to allegations that he mishandled classified documents improperly stored at his Mar-a-Lago estate and resisted the government's efforts to get them back. Investigators say Trump also showed classified material to people without security clearances, including one document described as a plan of attack and another a classified map related to a military operation. The documents, the indictment also included photos of boxes sitting on a ballroom stage and others kept in a bathroom at Trump's Palm Beach home. There it is. Meanwhile, ahead of next Tuesday, the independent special counsel Jack Smith made a brief and rare public statement.
The men and women of the United States intelligence community and our armed forces dedicate their lives to protecting our nation and its people. Our laws that protect national defense information are critical to the safety and security of the United States, and they must be enforced.
A Trump aide, Walt Nauta, a Navy veteran described as Trump's butler and body man, has also been indicted. He is accused of moving boxes of documents at Mar-a-Lago after a subpoena was issued to get them back. Now, along with the criminal case, the big question is how these federal charges will impact Trump's status as the Republican frontrunner in the race for the White House. Many political watchers say they anticipate an initial rally around Trump as well as a push from other candidates hoping to be the GOP nominee. Here's James Long at the University of Washington.
It's possible that we could also see this give extra energy to some of the candidates that have just recently entered into the race, like Chris Christie or Mike Pence, who have been saying that they represent President Trump's agenda, but they can't abide what they see as his criminality.
Well, speaking of the former vice president, Mike Pence, who announced he is running for the White House this week, told a crowd in New Hampshire that while he is discouraged by the indictment, he believes no one is above the law. So far, President Biden has not commented. Let's get to local headlines now. Newly released body cam video from police shows a deadly shooting outside of Vancouver's Safeway. This was last week on Mill Plain in Andreessen. We want to warn you here, the video is graphic. While you will hear the sound of gunshots, a lot of them, you will not see the person being shot. Though with all the increased attention on police using deadly force, we think it is important to show you a portion of this video, since it helps shed light on exactly what happened here. Officers say at the time they were trying to arrest 43-year-old Joshua Wilson, wanted on armed robbery charges. Authorities say they spotted his car, then followed him to the Safeway. When Wilson came out of the supermarket, that is when officers confronted him. We're going to switch to the body cam video shortly. As you watch it, you're going to see the officer get out of his car and run toward Wilson with his gun drawn. Now, when Wilson points a gun at that officer, the officer then fires multiple shots. It is unclear if Wilson ever fired again. You're going to hear the gunshots now. There are a lot of them fired by 3 officers and 1 deputy in all. We are not going to show you the shooting itself.
Drop the gun! Drop the gun!
Well, the video also shows officers trying to treat Wilson. He did not survive. This is the first deadly police shooting since Vancouver officers started wearing body cameras. All officers who fired their guns are still on leave, which is standard procedure in cases like this. Well, this coming Monday marks 6 years since the murder of Brian Spalding. Spalding was shot to death in his Northeast Portland home, and this evening his family is once again coming forward, hoping someone has answers. Mike Benner with their story.
I'm getting along. Day at a time.
George Spalding will tell you the 6 years since his son's murder have been torture for him and his wife. But he'll also tell you other parents of murdered children have it far worse.
Body never recovered, let alone case not solved. So we know exactly what happened with Brian. We just don't know why or who.
George remembers June 12th, 2017 like it was yesterday. His phone rang The person on the other end told him Brian did not show up to work. George and his wife raced over to Brian's house on Northeast 10th near Irving Park.
It was the worst day of my life. And so 911, paramedics pronounced him dead.
Brian had been shot to death. Detectives canvassed the neighborhood for clues, but nothing provided any clear-cut answers. And 6 years later, there are still no answers.
If somebody out there knows something about it, it would be nice if they would tell somebody.
Carolyn Spaulding wants nothing more than justice for her only son, whose murder has left her feeling helpless.
I don't particularly like to just accept the situation as it is, but it's no good to fight it either.
Carolyn and her husband George hope this is the year Brian's murder is solved once and for all. Resolution in the case, they say, would mean the world to them.
We'll still miss him every day. That will continue on. Nothing can bring him back.
6 years. Mike Bennett reporting there. Between reward money from Crime Stoppers and funds raised by family, more than $25,000 is available for tips that lead to an arrest and conviction. Anyone with information is asked to call Portland Police. This just in, the KGW newsroom. A Multnomah County jury has reached a verdict in a landmark lawsuit against Pacific Power. Plaintiffs are suing that company for $1.6 billion in damages, saying the company's power lines started fires that destroyed their homes in 2020 and that Pacific Power covered up the evidence. Lawyers for the company say it should not be held responsible for climate change, that other wildfires were to blame, and preemptive power shutoffs were rare at the time. It sounds like this verdict is going to be read on Monday. We'll have coverage here and at KGW.com. Well, if you have any doubts wildfire season is here, just take a look at our neighbors to the north. So far, nearly 11 million acres have burned across Canada so far this season. That's more than 15 times the yearly average. We've been talking a lot about fires in Quebec, but in northern BC, crews have now evacuated parts of a town called Tumbler Ridge. You can see why. I'll show you the video. This is just 6 miles east of town, where flames are tearing through forested land there. The BC Wildfire Service says the fire's been fueled by exceptionally strong winds, and of course, that's also made things tougher for firefighters. Meanwhile, over 100 wildfires are burning in eastern Canada, though the smoke from those, which had settled in across cities like Toronto, New York, and Philadelphia, has eased considerably today. That's a lot of good news, though officials are still keeping a very close eye on things. All right, in some cities where the school year has not wrapped up, students are back to learning virtually, with leaders saying they plan to reassess over the weekend. The already busy season is why crews from around our region are now sharpening their skills. More than 125 firefighters from 25 agencies are participating in the annual Metro Advanced Wildland School in Molalla. It's a chance for both new and experienced firefighters to gain valuable hands-on training.
Out in the wildland, out in a forest, we don't have ready water sources there. Out there, it's you and your shovel and your axe, and to be able to basically cut a line to stop the forward progress of the fire. Well,
this training also helps firefighters complete certifications as well, so they can respond to wildfires in Oregon and neighboring states. Let's shift gears here. Are you talking about this? Are you still working from home? Some of the country's biggest companies are making a huge push to get their employees back in the office. Let's give you some examples. Google is stepping up enforcement of its 3-day-a-week in-office policy. Meta, that's the company that owns Facebook, told its people to be in the office 3 days a week as of this September. Researchers estimate that only 14% of Americans work from home, but it's been enough to transform cities like Portland, Seattle, and San Francisco. One estimate suggests a little less than half of office workers in 10 major cities are showing up in an office at all.
So you have the pandemic forcing people out of downtown, and then opening up the opportunity for them to have a new method of work, and it just was a huge whammy to the city.
While a return to the workplace could benefit downtown businesses, not all workers are ready to commute, and some argue they're just not going to be as productive.
You can mandate people coming back, and they may very well comply, but that is not an engaged, purpose-driven, happy employee.
Got to keep people smiling. Other employees believe they have to come back to maintain their career. A recent survey from CNBC found that 56% of those asked believe those who work in person are more likely to advance further than remote and hybrid workers. Meanwhile, the return to the office is having a big impact on traffic. Our friends in Seattle, we're going to show you, have the numbers to back it up. You might recognize this place. It is Amazon's headquarters there in downtown Seattle. It's been about a month since Amazon started requiring its workers in the office at least 3 days a week. Okay, let's take a look at the inbound morning rush on I-90 here from Bellevue. In 2019, pre-pandemic, the average driver speed was 39 miles an hour. Okay, about a month ago, drivers were averaging 45. After Amazon's return to office, speeds dropped down to 29 miles an hour. It's also noticeable, not just I-90, on the 520 bridge, which also crosses Lake Washington, a little north near the University of Washington. Speeds dropped there from 42 miles an hour to just 30, indicating more volume, more cars on the road. The data, by the way, is from INRIX, that is a Washington company that tracks traffic patterns. Interesting. Well, still to come, lace up your boots. We're headed on a field trip to the forest with a life lesson kids will never forget. Welcome back. After being closed for more than 3 years, the Tillamook Forest Center has reopened. It wants to be a mecca when it comes to outdoor education. Tonight, Grant McComey shares a unique story with a lesson that goes way beyond the classroom.
We're going to line up right out there on the far side of that building.
Field trips are the best days in school.
This is your last chance to get a poncho, so if you want one, please grab one.
Rain or shine, a day in the field
Everybody ready?
can teach youngsters much about the outdoors.
So what do you see behind you? A river. Who said river? Correct. Does anybody know what river this is? It's the Wilson River.
Jesse Kane is a biologist and teacher at the newly reopened Tillamook Forest Center.
Is a river a type of habitat? Yeah, it's an aquatic habitat, right? Because a habitat is somewhere where animals live, get their food, and make their homes.
He wants these youngsters from Banks Elementary School to understand the life in a river.
Let's go ahead and hold that up for me. Who knows what this creature is? Shout it out. A fish. More importantly, a salmon. Exactly. And salmon live all up and down this river. A lot of people, when they think aquatic health or salmon, don't think forests, but forests are actually a really, really important factor in salmon and watershed health. What we do on the land dramatically affects the water.
And good morning, class. Does anybody know what I might have brought with me?
Rainbow trout?
Rainbow trout eggs, exactly.
The Banks students were well prepared for their field trip because they raised fish in their classroom last winter.
When I bring them around, you will see little spots in those. Do you have any idea what the little black spots might be that are going to be in those?
Ice.
Perfect. You got that exactly right.
The project is called Eggs to Fry, and Mr. Leroy Schultz delivered 500 trout eggs, courtesy of the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, to the second graders in Mrs. McComey's classroom.
Can you see them? All right.
Whoa! Be careful.
Anything surprise you when you saw those eggs for the first time? Anything
That they were transparent. I thought they would be rainbow.
Because that's what they are, yeah.
Rainbow trout.
The eggs became fry over 6 weeks and provided a launching point for science and math and even art projects like this giant rainbow trout life cycle.
We learned the life cycle of the rainbow trout, starting with
Eggs, almond, fry, adult.
On release day, the students traveled to Scoggins Creek to let the baby fish go free.
They're so cute.
We're going to open the bag. You can open yours too. Oh my gosh, this is such a big event. Oh, there they go.
Bye, little fishies. I said goodbye.
Was it sad or were you happy about it?
I was happy that they were getting released into the wild where they belong.
We absolutely love trout, and so she came home and was very excited to tell us that we had all these little eggs in a fish tank, and she was going to raise fish babies. How they start out so tiny as little eggs, and just great for them to be able to experience a bit of nature.
You see the bird holes and all those woodpecker markings?
Back on the field trip, Jesse Kane says the kids, the fish, and the forest merge into lasting memories and lessons about the Oregon outdoors.
I really want the kids to know what a habitat is. And it's in second grade, you might not have ever heard the word habitat. So if I can impart that it's a place where animals live, a place where they eat and find safety and shelter, I did my job.
At the Tillamook Forest Center with photographer Jeff Kastner, Grant McComey, KGW.
What a great life lesson. He definitely did his job. More details on the Grant's Getaways page at kgw.com. Don't forget his weekly half-hour show. That's tomorrow at 4 right here on KGW. Well, Matt's here now, and if you're wondering where Dame Laurel Porter is this evening, she's off on some very important royal duties, I've told. She was knighted as an honorary Royal Rosarian this morning. It's a Rose Festival tradition that dates back decades. I'm told it would be wise to bow to her every day and maybe invest in a new name placard for her desk. I think she wants more than that, though. A crown, a bottle of bubbly. I don't know. If you're not familiar with the Royal Rosarians, they're considered the official greeters and ambassadors of goodwill for the city of Portland. They wear white suits, straw hats, and by default, big, big smiles. They select a handful of people to receive the honor every year. Congratulations to Laurel. And I'm told you, Sir Zaffino, received this a few years back.
I did, yes. So I joined Laurel. I guess Laurel joins me as
so I guess I will
honorary.
Just nod my head
you
to
can just
you
nod
right
and
here.
call me
Just
Sir
nod.
Matt.
Sir
My
Matt.
rose that I picked is the wild blue yonder, because you know.
You know what I noticed? I have blue roses.
I know.
On my tie.
I need to steal that tie from you. It's
Kismet,
perfect.
It just happened.
Laurel's rose is the Moonlight Romantica.
Oh, yellow, I think. Yeah. She said.
Yes, she did say that.
So, Sir Matt, do we get a better forecast because you are a dignitary?
The roses love today. They got the rain that they crave and a
answer,
very
right?
gentle rainfall, right? But it's ending, and I think parade goers get the weather that they will love for tomorrow. Let's take you outside right now. The rain is largely ended in Portland. If it hasn't at your house, it will soon. The clouds hang on. 61 degrees right now. We never made it out of the low 60s. Boy, what a change from 3 days ago when we were in the low 90s. The rainfall has not been heavy, 0.07 of an inch. We've been stuck at that number for a while, so it has not been raining, at least not much. 1,300s up in Vancouver, 1,600s in Scappoose, and nobody in the metro picked up much more than that. Up at Longview and Kelso, they had, pardon me, about 1/4 of an inch there. I'm getting all choked up thinking about Laurel's roses there. Okay, we still have thunderstorms in southeast Oregon, south central Oregon. Here's our batch of rain, and let's watch what happens to it. It's just sort of falling apart, and it's beginning to edge a little bit back to the east from whence it came. This was a disturbance that we picked up on last night, and yes, at this time yesterday, I wasn't talking about rain last night or today, but then last night, it's like, uh-oh, here it comes. Weak disturbance moved in from the east, settled over us, and just sat here and gave us the rain. And you know, a lot of people are pretty happy about it because it's been a while, long while, since we've had a rainy day. You got to go back to May 15th. Drying out, pleasant weekend, but then hot again on Monday. That's how fast it'll turn around. But tomorrow, really great weather for the Grand Floral Parade. It'll be cloudy up until about 10 o'clock or so, which is when the parade starts. Then the clouds begin to break up. By noontime, when the festivities with the parade are winding down, should be mainly sunny. And then we are back in the 70s tomorrow, just slightly above average. Today, as I mentioned, a cool one, only 62 for a high here. Pretty much everybody was cool, even Medford with that 86. Not exactly hot for the Rogue Valley, 77 up in Pendleton. And we're running 10, 12 degrees cooler now than we were at this time yesterday. I mentioned it's our first rain since the middle of May, and that was only 300 of an inch, so not a very rainy day. Coolest day since the 5th of May when we topped out at only 60. But again, it gets hot again on Monday as this disturbance is lifting north ever so gently. It's a subtle system, and the center of it's actually down here in eastern Oregon. It's why they're getting the easterly flow up in Washington right now. That one moves out, but another one moves in to replace it. That stays to our south, so that allows us to clear things up tomorrow. Again, we get sunshine, and by Sunday, we're back in the 80s. And on Monday, we're in the 90s as high pressure begins to edge back on in right about here. So not a huge area of high pressure. Then it gets nudged away by cooler conditions Tuesday, Wednesday, and there's a slight chance we'll get some more rain maybe next weekend, but we're getting out there space and time, so we'll see if that actually holds up. 61 right now, freezing level up around 11,000 feet. If you're going to the beach this weekend, enjoy. Partly sunny after morning clouds tomorrow, and then generally clear on Sunday. So it's going to be a very nice weekend at the beach with highs in the 60s. Not too windy tomorrow. The winds will pick up Sunday and Monday. Sunshine after morning clouds in the valleys in it. We'll get breezy in the valleys tomorrow afternoon. Highs will be in the upper 70s though, so very pleasant. If you're going to the Cascades, sunshine pretty much all weekend. 64 at Govey, Timberline about 58, and then getting warmer Sunday and Monday. Eastern Oregon, some morning showers up around Pendleton, over towards the Dalles maybe early, but then it clears out, and down to the south of there it'll be clear all weekend. In the Gorge, becoming sunny and becoming windy with westerlies up to 30 miles an hour. 80 in the Dalles, 76 for Hood River. For Portland, the rain's ending. The clouds will clear tomorrow again. Mid to late morning, we'll make it up to 75. Then we'll go 85 on Sunday and 90 on Monday. And then we stair-step it back down to 81 Tuesday and 70s after that. So, boy, we've been on a bit of a roller coaster here. It's warm, it's cool, but finally, it's wet.
We needed the rain.
We sure did.
Now we got the balance.
Break. Yeah.
Thanks, Matt. We'll be right back. Well, you heard Matt talk about the Grand Floral Parade, but the fun is all this weekend with Fleet Week. 10 ships are here from the U.S. and Canadian Navy, as well as the Coast Guard, and all ready to greet the public. Tours started today. They're free from 9:30 till 3:30 every day through Sunday. Bring your ID, leave large backpacks at home, and wear closed-toed shoes. Well, images like these never get old. We're going to check out NASA astronauts Steve Bowen and Woody Hoberg stepping out today amongst the stars. The pair began installing new solar arrays outside the International Space Station. Once installed, they'll produce 30% more electricity than the current ones. The entire spacewalk took about 6.5 hours. Steve Bowen is leading the NASA mission. This was his 9th spacewalk, while it was Hoberg's first. Wow. That's it for us at 6:30. Straight Talk is next. Brenda Braxton is in for Laurel. She's taking a close look at the state of inbound travel to Portland and Oregon at large. You're going to find out the one group that's brought a big increase in tourism to our area, and we're going to learn whether hotels are finally getting back to pre-pandemic levels. But first, we want to check out the view from our Rose City sky camera. You can see a few ships out there along the waterfront. I don't think that's the USS John McCain there, the John S. McCain, rather, the big destroyer, or the other one, the Kansas City that you saw earlier. I'm back tonight at 11. If I do not see you then, have a great weekend.